So, who exactly is Jim Partridge?
Well, first of all, Robert, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I'm an engineer, father of two, married. I live in Wareham, grew up in Plymouth. I went to WPI, and I now work for a sonar company in West Wareham called EdgeTech. My grandparents used to live in Marshfield before they passed away, and I have an aunt and uncle that live in Marshfield these days as well. So a bit of a local connection.
And also, you essentially have a title as the awards chairman with the Kurt Giessler Foundation.
That's right.
So, could you perhaps, tell us what exactly that means as an awards chairman? Your title?
Without getting into the nitty gritty of the foundation, I handle the awards submissions. So we give out grants and prizes for achievement to kids and young adults ages 12 through 20 to pursue whatever educational pursuits they have outside of the classroom. So these applicants have to submit their grant proposals and prize nominations through our website, or they can mail it in. And so I handle taking those, reviewing it with the rest of the board of the foundation, and we judge them. We determine, are they worth funding, not funding, funding partially, and then getting the awards and the checks mailed out to the recipients.
You just mentioned how the Kurt Giessler Foundation is to essentially provide, grant money to educate to students who are pursuing education projects outside of the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually fairly unique, because normally when you talk about foundations that deal with grant money in the education field, that normally goes to teachers, but yours is much different.
That's right. That's a very good point. So these are self-directed education projects for whatever they're trying to pursue outside of the classroom. And so what's interesting about it is that the grants cannot be for school credit, and they can't be for school equipment. So these wouldn't be for something like new uniforms for the baseball team or something like that. It's more of I have a project, I have an interest or a hobby, I want to go pursue that outside of the classroom and deal with that. So yeah, it's not your typical memorial scholarship where it's, a scholarship for college or something. It's really something that helps kids and young adults get into whatever hobbies that they're into, and kind of dive more deeply into the details of whatever they're interested in.
So how did the whole foundation get started?
So Kurt Giessler was a dear friend of mine. He passed away in 2012. He was actually quite the character. He had a pacemaker when he was a child up through his teen years. He had a double lung and heart transplant in 2001, then another double lung transplant in 2007. So quite amazing to think he was on lungs 5 and 6 at that point. Then he graduated Carnegie Mellon and became a teacher in Plymouth, and then later in Hanover. He ran the Hanover robotics team for many years. And I even think they named the engineering suite after him after he passed away. He believed in, like I said, kids taking proactive approach to their own education, so supplementing what they do outside of the classroom with what they learn inside the classroom, to kind of have a double-pronged approach to it.
So how do we determine what exactly is eligible for this grant money when they're pursuing, as you described, that double-pronged approach?
So it's been interesting because it's open-ended. When we started this 10 years ago, like I said, he passed away in 2012, and we took some time to get 501c3 status. So 2014 is really where we started first awarding these, and we didn't know what was going to happen. And again, because they're not school-related, we just didn't know what was going to come in. So really the sky is the limit in terms of topics. It could be scientific, engineering, STEM related. It could be art. It could be if somebody who's running a charity event. And so we've gotten a fairly wide range of projects over the years, project proposals.
Can you perhaps maybe list any examples that
Sure.
that you guys have funded?
Sure. So the very first one was Matthew Capucci in 2014. And he was a weather enthusiast. He wanted to become a meteorologist. And so he asked for, I think, about $2,000 worth of photography equipment and weather monitoring equipment. And we awarded that. And he then ended up going on to become an actual meteorologist, which was great to see. We've had lots of different projects. Another one that comes to mind is a person that Liam Cross that requested money for a 3D printer so he could work on printing a prosthetic hand for a friend. And that's the other thing too. The two requirements, aside from not being for school credit, is that they have to benefit yourself and benefit the community. Those are the two questions that we make the recipients ask, or the applicants ask. So you have to demonstrate, you can't just ask for a 3D printer. There has to be some other actual use or application for it that benefits the community. Other ones, we just gave away 2 awards this past year. Tajasvi in Louisiana asked for about $2,000 for teaching English to his community, his church community in Louisiana, and teaching them STEM-related concepts. So that was interesting. And then another project in, I think, Minnesota, Luke Hatton and Riley Dibble asked for $2,750 to look at, I think their project acronym was TWIRL. It had to deal with launching rockets with weather equipment in them to determine if storms would eventually develop into tornadoes, which I thought was really interesting. And so that was one of the ones where, it was just a no-brainer to award in full. And they got those funds in, I think, the end of 2024. Yeah, it was interesting.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, very, very, very fascinating projects, if you ask me. Now, of course, you can't really, there's no real way for you guys, to distribute this without, getting the money yourselves, which is obviously, a pretty big need, not for you, but for any, nonprofit organization.
Yes,
so
that's true.
Could you perhaps, maybe just tell us, what are some of your biggest needs?
Sure. So we've been fundraising over the past decade. We used to do a golf event in September, but we stopped doing that with the pandemic. But we've also been teamed up with South Shore Race Management, and we receive a charitable donation from them every January as a result of the Frozen Pilgrim Race. In terms of other needs, word of mouth, spreading the word about what this charitable foundation does. Believe it or not, it's actually very difficult to give away money, quote unquote. We want to make sure that these applications are the real deal. They're not fraudulent in any way. These days, we've found ourselves having to check for AI generated content. You never know if somebody's just generating a giant application of AI generated stuff. When we first set up our website, we had project submissions coming from web crawlers, just going through and completing the form automatically. And so we had to weed all that stuff out. So just really word of mouth to get applicants to apply and to get people to nominate kids. So that's the other thing too. We do ambition grants. So you apply for a grant that you have an idea for, you need money, you supply, you submit a budget of all of your line item expenses and a project proposal. It doesn't have to be long. It's usually just a letter where you answer those 2 questions. How does this project benefit you? How does it benefit the community? And we actually did add a 3rd question of how specifically will you achieve your goals? Because in the beginning, we were getting a lot of pie in the sky, abstract, ambiguous projects. And we try to really make sure that the kids and young adults know exactly what they're going to do and lay out all the steps and how they're going to measure success in it.
Do you have any success? Does the organization have any success stories of its own?
I would just say that we've awarded over 70,000, I think 71,000 in grants over the past decade, which is, I think, quite a lot considering we're just a very small organization. Nobody's taking a stipend or like I said, it's a nonprofit, but nobody's receiving a paycheck from it. So it's all volunteer work. So yeah, just a few thousand each year, a handful of projects every year. And I think in that sense, we've achieved success.
What sort of feedback has the organization really received?
It's been entirely positive as far as I know. Just a lot of updates from some of the recipients, what they've been up to. A lot of them are going to college or doing other things. So we get updates every once in a while of either project updates. So this is where the money went. A bunch of photos of this is whatever invention I had and this is how it went. So that's really been the feedback. It's been positive and just success stories of, hey, thanks for that project money way back when. This is what I'm up to now. It's been good.
Can you perhaps maybe delve a little bit deeper into that, into what do you feel as though the organization has brought to those who receive these grants?
Sure. So, a lot of these kids, they're rock stars anyways. They'd be successful anyways. But I think it's important to recognize students who maybe, maybe they sit at the back of the class, they're a little quiet or something, and a teacher might see that they did a whole bunch of extra work or an after-school activity or something. And in that sense, that teacher or coach or whoever can nominate the student for a prize for achievement. So it doesn't really have to be something that they're applying for. Somebody can recognize that, hey, this kid has done a really good job with this. I'm going to nominate them, write a letter of nomination, and then in that case, the foundation will give them some recognition. So it's not just the kids that are at the head of the class and would be successful anyways. We're really trying to give anybody an opportunity to get an award.
Is there any way for people to get involved?
Sure. So first of all, anybody can apply, ages 12 through 20, and you can get involved by either helping out with the Frozen Pilgrim race. We don't really have too many other events throughout the year. We might have a golf event at some point again, in which case we're always looking for volunteers to help with it. You can get involved in the actual meetings and discussions. So you just contact the organization. It's at kurtgiessler.com. So you could do that. We have a board of a handful of members that meet either in person or over email to discuss all these projects. So if somebody were possibly interested in that, we'd consider it.
Is there perhaps anything else you would like people to know about the organization?
Sure. So I always say this, that if it seems too good to be true, it isn't. But in this case, we're really not after any of the students' IP or ideas or anything. So let's say somebody has this amazing invention that they want to work on. We don't have any stake in that. We give you the money, and that's effectively it. We appreciate updates. We hope you're successful, but we're not looking to kind of piggyback and get a cut of whatever. If you have some invention, we're not looking to have any stake in that or anything. It's purely, here's your grant money. Good luck.
All right.
Yeah.
Jim, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you. I appreciate it.